now be live. This is the first session in what I hope will be a fairly long-running campaign based on the idea of mythological ancient Greece. However, with a little bit of a twist on it, after the session 0 discussion with my players, we've translated that into a space opera setting that we're sort of tongue-in-cheek calling Space Greece for obvious reasons. Now, the way we begin is, in ancient days, mankind was far more advanced than we are now. And in our hubris, we built great machines to span the black void between the worlds, machines that fought and lived our lives for us. Greatest of all these machines were the Titans, led by their master Kronos. But we gifted too much of ourselves and our spirit to these machines, and in time they decided they did not need us, and war raged across the world of the Athenian Cascade. We dispatched our finest warriors and pitched them in battle against the fleet of the 300 Spartan warriors of the Titans. It was a battle we were destined to lose. Then, as if in answer to our prayers, a young woman on the small world of Delphi spoke to us of long-forgotten gods who would deliver us from this evil, asking only that we worship them and forsake the technology that had cast us into darkness. We agreed, and a thunderbolt rolled across the dark night as Zeus and the Olympians entered the fray. That was many thousands of years ago. Much of what happened is lost to us, but the Titans were cast down into Tartarus, the domain of Hades that lies beyond the stars, and mankind once more lives in the light of the gods, sworn never to repeat the mistakes of their past. So I'm now going to ask our players to introduce their characters and say just a little bit about them. So, in no particular order, we will start with Matthew.
Hello there. So I am playing Titus, who is a repentant cyborg engineer aboard one of these great cities in the future. Kind of bulky kind of looking fella, beard and kind of crisscross of scars and burnt marks. Parts of his body have been replaced by machinery. Now in this future, advanced machinery, advanced technology like Titans is far forbidden. However, there is a certain aesthetic that gods enjoy, certain technology that they indulge upon. The instruments of these gods, that is divine, but not of the Titans. He's been granted a hammer of his lord Hephaestus, a hammer to build and to destroy and to maintain the great works of the gods.
Thank you very much. We now move on to Johannes.
Right, so I'm playing Theron, who is, well, he's a warrior philosopher in the finest tradition of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warriors. And he is, I guess, somewhat of an ideologue. He's in the tradition of classic Greece, he probably holds his own classes, teaches his way of the world to any who will listen. And in a past conflict, of which there are many, one imagines, against the remnants of the Titans and the 300, he rose to the occasion and he became a hero of the Republic. And as such is somewhat of a folk hero, I guess, celebrated and hated as well, wherever he goes for these things, and I presume his philosophies as well. And he is accompanied always by his cybernetic snake owl companion, Orbos. And that is me.
Thank you very much. So, last but by no means least, we'll hopefully be joined by Lloyd shortly. So, we're going to move on to Dennis's character now.
Yeah, I'm playing Aeolian, a blue girl who happens to be a Haitian ferryman, and she's dressed in the traditional black robes of the ferryman. She is blind, so she has a blindfold across her eyes. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So, we begin our session today on the planet of Athena. It's a fairly civilized planet many tall buildings clad in marble with columns rising high up to the sky. And atop each of these columns is an effigy praising one of the gods or another. You can see statues to Poseidon, statues to Zeus. There's not really any of Hades, which, Elion, you would know. That's because people tend not to worship Hades so much as try and sort of keep him the hell away from them until it's their time to pass into his realm. The custom of placing 2 coins or obols on the eyes of the dead in order for them to pay their way with the true ferryman of Hades still runs strong in the Republic, and it's deemed as a great sort of social faux pas and a misstep to not be able to place those coins on the eyes of the dead. It's such a strong tradition that even when great battles take place, the opposing armies will often withdraw in the evening, allowing people to go out and place these coins on the eyes of the dead without attacking them. It's part of a long-standing tradition. So, as I say, we begin on the planet of Athens, amongst these splendid buildings. You're stood on a beach. There's a sandy shore stretching out ahead of you, and pulled up to the beach, I suppose moored if you will, is a beautiful looking ship. You can see fancy filigree work along the side of it, and folded up at the back are the solar sails, these golden cloth-like sails, which any of you who have travelled on a starship before will know, once you enter the blackness between planets, extend from the back of the ship and unfold into this gigantic sail which catches the rays of the suns and allows the ship to move through the blackness. Obviously, Alien, you'll be aware that in order for ships to travel greater distances, they must have a navigator, a ferryman, which will allow them to enter the realm of Tartarus, or Hell as some people know it, the realm of Lord Hades himself, where distance and time mean little compared to the mortal world, and this allows ships to travel huge distances in fairly little time. But it's not without its dangers, and it's a realm impossible to enter without one who bears the divine essence of Hades, such as yourself. Now, you're all on this beach because a great and noble hero, the cast down Scion of Athens, his family once ruled. This was a man by the name of Jason, a tall, muscular, statuesque man, has called for an assemblage of the greatest heroes of the realm to gather here. He believes that he's going to go out on a God-given mission shortly, and he needs the greatest crew in the land to enable him to do this. So he has sent out a call to great heroes, philosophers, warriors to attend him, and they will take part in a series of games to determine who is the worthiest to join him on this mission. As he stands there on the beach, you can see Jason. He's stood there wearing a fairly simple sort of tunic of white cloth. He's overseeing these games as various athletic games, games of intelligence, games of chance, etc. Since obviously when you're travelling on a dangerous mission, you also need the will of the gods with you. So I'm going to ask each of you to describe what has particularly drawn your characters to this mission. What has caused you to come here, and what do you particularly bring to this mission? You can see this beautiful ship, the Trelos Cosmos, moored by the side of this beach, its solar sails folded up. And as the camera pans round to the Trelos Cosmos, this beautiful, immaculate vessel, we see a lone figure, the captain of said vessel, stood on the deck overseeing the games. So I'm going to turn over to Lloyd now to ask him to describe his character, the captain of said ship.
Hi everyone. So Aeson is a man of he's got a decent girth about him. He's fairly alright. He's wearing like all I think he's wearing so like pseudo Greek style like plated armor sort of style with like a skirt at the bottom, which is also made of metal, and he is leaning on the side of the boat. Well, the side, like on the side of the boat, just leaned on like this, looking like he's paying perfect attention to everything that's happening. But he's actually asleep, and his eyes are closed, and he's snoring slightly.
Okay, splendid. So now, Matthew, as someone who carries the hammer of Hephaestus, the Forge God, what do you feel you bring to Jason's mission? What competition would you have competed in, and obviously won to earn your place amongst this crew that he's putting together?
Well, I obviously volunteered for this mission. A chance to walk in the light of the gods was very important to me, and an opportunity to pay back the sins that I have wreaked upon this world and others. My challenge would have been to find some remnant of Titan technology, something hidden away under some stone or riverbed that thinks it's safe from Hephaestus' gaze, and to draw it out into the light and cleanse it and hold it.
And what was this tech that you managed to find, and how did you present it to Jason, who is going to be leading this crew of heroes and warriors who, amongst the local people, given that you have a notable hero of the Republic in Theron amongst your crew, and given the name of the ship, which is the Trelos Cosmos, people have taken to calling the crew of the ship the Kosmonauts.
It was a giant golden crab made of metallic pincers and highly intelligent, apart from it doesn't seem to behave in an intelligent fashion, but what it does is it hides upon galactic ships and will consume their energy sources, casting them adrift in the void and using that energy as procreation.
Okay, so as you've presented this like huge sort of golden metallic crab, obviously you've deactivated it.
Beat the living shit out of it, I have.
Exactly. So as you've presented it to much acclaim and much applause and gasps from this huge assemblage of people who've gathered to watch these competitions, with much ceremony, Jason takes it up to the head of the ship, the prow of the ship, and mounts it on the front of the ship like this gleaming golden figurehead. So, as the captain of the ship, Aeson, what do you think about Jason? Just although he is like a mighty hero and he's quite a hench, so to speak, what do you think of him just like striding up onto your ship and just like mounting this huge like golden crab on the?
Excuse me, I didn't ask for golden crowns before my goddamn ship. The ship is an intricately, beautifully well-crafted piece of art that belongs to me. That I won in a card game. Important that it looks exactly the way it's supposed to look, and this crab thing is not going to fly. I mean, if Jason's willing to increase the money he pays me for the crab to be on there, I'm not going to complain.
Jason slaps you on the shoulder in a sort of friendly manner, and he laughs a great sort of bellowing like, says, "It's good to see you awake at last, son."
Yes, I'm happy. Also, don't call me son.
My apologies. As I've already told you, when we have retrieved the fleece and my kingdom is restored, I will be able to bestow great wealth upon you and all of these great heroes. And he throws his hand out, indicating the rest of the crew are gathering and bringing stuff on board. My favour will be boundless once we have retrieved the fleece and I've been able to cure my people of the sickness that rages through them.
In that case, it's perfectly fine. I can handle one crab. It'll be fine.
He turns around to the people and says, "You see, the gods are with us. We will triumph and we will retrieve the fleece." And people in the crowd like, "Rrr." So like chanting the various names of the heroes who have been chosen to take part in this journey. Now, Dennis, Aelion, I'm assuming that you are obviously the ferryman of this voyage, so therefore your place would have been you wouldn't have had to compete basically because there's too few of your sort around for them to be picky. However, how did it come about that you in particular were chosen to be the guide or the ferryman of this ship?
I'm gonna assume, if it's okay with Lloyd, that she kind of came with the ship. That she just appeared one day and just walked on board. And when he asked her what you were doing, she would reply, "You need someone to see."
I mean, what's a ship without baggage?
Actually,
Okay,
I
so-
like that. I think that's cool.
So, given that you two have obviously travelled together, Aelion and Aeson, what's the relationship between the two of you like? You've obviously travelled together a bit before this. How do you sort of relate to each other?
I find Ilion to be a sorry, I need a minute. Okay. I find Alien to be a very strange individual. They're always away from everyone else. They keep to themselves. They don't really seem to get into the party mood, and it kind of rubs me the wrong way. But at the same time, it's nice to have someone there who I can't just constantly just throw into the deep end and be like, "It'll be fine. Let's get going." In a very strange and odd way, find a kind of a refuge from how wild my life tends to be.
And Dennis, how does your character feel about Aeson, the captain of this vessel that you're sailing on, and indeed the rest of the crew in general?
Well, since she sees the dead everywhere due to her connection to Hades, Aeson's overly abundance of partying and rambunctiousness kind of creates a tiny speck of light in the dark that she sees. So secretly, she likes that, but she keeps that to herself.
Okay, so as Jason's having this discussion with Aeson, obviously you're presumably on board the ship, Leon, as well. So as you're saying that, I'd like to offer the first compel of the game, since I believe everyone you see is dead.
Yes.
So I would like to suggest that you are about to see some dead people, and that you may react to that in a way that might complicate the scene. And obviously I'd offer you a fate point for that.
Okay, that's cool.
He's waving a fair point in front of you. You can't see it.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so yeah, that's my less than subtle signal for like I'm offering you a fate point, just like waving the power about. Okay, so as Jason's talking with Aeson, and you're obviously stood to one side near the black sort of marble or basalt chair that you would sit in, you can see the Greek style helmet with wires running from it that you don in order to enable you to propel the ship through the darkness between the stars. As you look at Jason, and he stood there and he's like laughing and going, "See, the gods are with us," and the crowd are cheering. As you look at him, you can see what appeared to be 10 or so translucent young children. They all bear the pallid, pale, wan faces of unquiet spirits or the dead from Hades' realm, and they all appear to be standing next to him. They're all holding hands with each other, and the ones nearest to Jason are sort of like holding on to his robes, almost in a sort of a childlike way they would like cling to an adult. Obviously, you know that no one else is aware of them.
Okay, and Aeson is nearby.
Yes.
Okay, just Jason and Aeson. Sounds the same. Okay. Well, you look at the, was it 10 children?
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna assume it's not that odd for her to see that.
It's not odd for you to see spirits clustered around someone they knew in life. However, it's not often you see sort of like younger spirits, and not in these numbers. Normally people who've died, they tend to like cling to people who meant something to them in life or they had some connection to.
Okay. So he brings the ghosts on board. You go up to Aeson, her captain, and stand near him. And
Elian, my good, beautiful navigator. Your voice and presence is ambrosia. Tell me, what do the stars tell us about our journey today?
she doesn't look at him, but looks at the the children standing near Jason.
I
Stop
said,
it,
what?
Matthew.
Oh, Matthew.
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
it's all
please
good,
continue.
guys.
For watchers, please ignore our laughing. It's silly.
We might have some more.
Space Grease.
We might have some more passenger on board, Captain. It seems our hero is bringing ghosts.
Stowaways? Do you have stowaways? I can't do a stowaways.
What spirits of the dead? I think they might be wanting to go home.
I'm sorry, what?
Jason, he's accompanied by
Mhm.
10 spirits of the dead.
Mhm.
At this point, I would like to say that both Leon and Aeson, you can make me intellect rolls if you wish to see what you know about Jason.
Excellent. I have no fate dice on my desk.
It's only a moderately difficult roll, so you only need a 2. We have got the roll 20 open, Lloyd, so you can use the dice
There
now
we
if
go.
you wish.
Thanks.
I rolled the die and I got a 2.
Okay, so your granddad, just wait for Lloyd to make his roll.
Give me 1 second. I'm looking in. I'll be there in a minute, I promise.
It's all good, man.
Or 2, because roll 20 is taking forever to roll. Scrub on these online roll, it's easier. Intellect roll is... Wait for it. 0, exactly.
Okay, so to be honest, Aeson, you don't know much about Jason other than the fact he's supposed to be descended from the original royalty of Athens, who was somehow deposed, and he's promised you basically loads of riches once he's restored. However, Leon, you know that the current king of this planet, Pelias, he believed that he received a prophecy from the gods that he was going to be the ruler of this planet, but only when all of the children of the current lineage were dead. And in one bloody night, he dispatched all of the ruling family, with the exception of one small infant who was smuggled out of the royal household. It's believed by many that Jason is that infant grown to manhood and that he's now returned. However, in order to prove his claim, he believes that the gods have set him this task of retrieving this magical device called the Fleece that he believes will enable him to cure a plague that's currently afflicting the planet. And if he does so, that he will be able to reclaim his birthright. And obviously he's then promised Aeson a whack load of money.
It is his kin. Aeson.
This is what now? You're not making any sense. Not like you make sense normally, but you're not making any... Look, listen. Why don't you just go downstairs, have a pint, have 2, have 3 on me, knock yourself out, and we'll discuss this when we set off. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
As you're having this conversation, suddenly a huge cheer rises from the crowd, and looking out across the deck of your ship, you see this huge sort of crowd of people following a single individual down to the beach. Some great hero of the Republic who's sort of striding down the beach. So, Johannes, what task did Theron undertake to earn his place on the ship, great hero that he is?
I think he debated all the priests and the philosophers on the planet that would take up his challenge for 7 days in a row without sleep. And he refuted them all, cast them out as the clowns that they were, and basically proved that his mind was the best and the most learned and the most glorious as far as learning goes on this planet, which, if it's anything like the namesake, then they probably value wisdom quite a bit. So he basically issued an open challenge for anyone to bring him anything that he couldn't solve or debate into oblivion. And he did that for a week and then just crashed.
Okay, that is absolutely fine. So you're having earned your place amongst the cosmonauts. You are striding down the beach. You're surrounded by people chanting your name, chanting Theron, 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 hero of the Republic. This huge crowd of basically fans gathered around you, so like people trying to just like touch your robes because they believe some of your divine blessing will like rub off on them. There's a couple of women who run up and like kiss you on the cheek. A few people throw like garlands over your neck as you're moving down the beach. How does Theron react to this level of attention as you're walking towards the ship?
He is he's sort of stoic, but you can tell that he's very uncomfortable with the fact that people are just bringing up babies, like, please touch my baby for good luck. And it's just like, no. And he's sort of like reluctantly taking all the garlands. Just like, okay, please go away now and let me just go. And he's probably like beating off some people who would just like grab his robes, his flowing royal blue robes that he wears as a sign of his status as a philosopher.
Okay, now obviously that might be complicated a little bit if some of the people were getting a little bit more obsessive about your,
I think they are.
character.
I think they are.
Okay, so as you take that sweet fake point, a young woman like runs up to you and she literally sort of like almost falls onto the sand, and she's like grabbed hold of like the hem of your garment, so holding it, you're like literally dragging her along as you're walking, and she's like, oh, Theron, do you remember that magical night we had together? Surely you won't just like leave me like this. You told me I was the only one you loved. Think of the children, Theron. Think of the children.
John, do I remember this magical night that is being mentioned?
Well, since you've accepted the companion, it's entirely possible that you did spend an evening with this woman. You certainly haven't had like any children with this woman, but you know from your experience, since you are such a noted hero, that a lot of people want to be with you in order to sort of get some of that glory reflected on themselves, and some of them do become a little bit obsessive. You've had a few incidents where people have even become like dangerous and like trying to cut off like locks of your hair or steal your possessions because they believe they're somehow blessed. This woman's obviously one such obsessive person.
Well, I lean down, so I stop the procession that's following behind me. I lean down and I take this woman's hands and I sort of like raise her up from the ground, and I hold her hand up and look to the crowd and go, I shall take but one companion on this most glorious journey.
People in the crowd start shouting, I'll be your companion, Theron. I'll go with you, Theron. Pick me, Theron, pick me!
So I go, behold. What was your name? What was your name?
She says, it's Lasfena. I can't believe you've forgotten already. And you see like tears gathering in the corner of her eyes.
Yes, Lasfena, my boon companion on this ride. Now, fellow citizens of the Republic, please proceed to the nearest shrine that you feel attracted to and sacrifice for our good fortune, for we undertake a heroic task.
And the rest of you guys are on board the ship. You watch as Theron sort of leads this woman who's sort of like fawning over him and sort of like stroking his cheek and kissing his neck up onto your
Before they get on
boat.
board, Aeolian will walk towards Jason and to draw.
He smiles at you and says, "What news, stalwart
To
navigator?"
draw back her hood and reveal her long golden dresses, and she will kneel down and say, "Welcome on board, children," and she will ignore him completely and focus on the ghosts.
Jason looks a little bit confused, and he sort of looks over with a slightly sort of like help me look at the captain.
I will drunkenly saunter over and sort of like not take Elian in my arms, sort of like lead her away like a come child, come my child, come on. And I'm like, listen. Let us not disturb the man who is paying us a god's ransom and money for the entire episode. Let's focus more on what is beyond. I mean, let's focus more on the journey coming forward. Look at the stalwart young men. And then Roman, is that a woman? And a few women. That's what we've got there. We've got this Titus person who put a crab on my ship for some reason, but he seems quite important. We've got this Theron fella whom the crowd cheer for. Probably a man of good repute, and why is he bringing that woman? I'm not going to ask questions. But you've got me.
Any of you who have been around for a few years will have heard the name Theron. So Theron, describe what your character is best, what you are best known for amongst the Republic. What are you a hero?
It was probably, I think, in the past 5 years, we've had a resurgent threat of this, the 300 around here. Probably like an old remnant just woke up and then went on a rampage, and a tendril of that rampage reached Athens itself, the planet, and Theron was probably, because Theron carries this magnificent hypertech bow with him as he comes on board. It's what he's known for. That he went into the shrine of Athena, where he had led the people to shelter, basically a bomb shelter, and he went to the shrine and prayed there for a night, and then came out with this tachyon bow, and then stood at the gates of the shrine and just kept shooting the space Spartans that were attacking the shrine. Again, for I think several days straight. I think this is probably a thing that he does. I'm gonna have to make an aspect for it eventually.
Okay, so you guys will all have heard these tales, but obviously tales get exaggerated in the telling. So by the time you guys have heard the tales, it was probably Theron, on his own, stood on the prow of a burning ship in orbit around Athens with the entire 300 fleet gathered around him, and him just there with a bow, single-handedly holding them back. So you'll have all heard his name, but say in ridiculously exaggerated tales.
Theron, the Theron, Athena's own blessed son, in our presence, in our midst, on our ship. Shall we not be exuberant about this? Should we not be celebrating? It's going to be a fantastic journey, and of course, it would not be as a fantastic journey if I did not have possibly one of the greatest navigators.
But Captain, you're always saying we should greet the guests.
Yes, greet the guests. Just don't scare away the money.
I don't think you can scare away money. I don't think money can be scared.
As you're having this conversation, Jason has walked over to greet you personally, Theron, as you head up the gangplank on to the Trellis Cosmos. He shakes your hand warmly and says, "It is truly a blessing of the gods to have such a great hero as yourself on board this journey. Would you please do me the honor?" And he turns around. You can see he's holding a navigational map in his hand. He turns around and he points at a distant star that you can just see in the fading light of twilight. Would you do me the honor of the traditional firing of your bow in the direction of our travel? I believe it will bring the blessings of the gods upon us and our voyage.
You are very pious, Jason. And as a true patriot, I am glad to do so. And I proceed to the front of the ship to ready my bow. And as I go, I nod to everyone. I presume on the way, I'll meet our navigator and our captain.
As you're moving to the prow of the ship, the crowd sort of jostle for position to see you sort of standing up proudly behind this new figurehead, this strange golden crab that's been mounted on the front of the ship. As you like pull your bow back and you see the sort of tachyons and the electrical field begin to race around it, there's an audible like
Titus is watching
from
this
the
ball
crowd
with
as you pull your
keen
bow back.
interest. Keen interest.
And then there's a bright flash as the tachyon arrow just flies straight forward to the horizon.
Indeed. A bolt of light shoots forward, almost seeming to pierce the heavens itself. Then it dips down below the far horizon, and another great cheer goes up from the crowd, several of whom have like begun like breaking their wine out that they've brought with them, and they're sort of drinking, getting into the celebratory spirit, wishing to like see you guys off with the true hero's departure that you all deserve. Jason smiles and he sort of like walks up and like claps you on the shoulder in a gesture of friendship, Theron. Then he turns around to look at you, Aeson, and he says, "Well, good captain, at your earliest convenience."
I look around and I'm like, wait, am I supposed to give a speech here? Of course, I'm a captain. What am I doing?
All the people in the crowd are sort of like on 10. They're all like holding their breath, sort of like looking at you.
I'm gonna walk on. I'm looking at Ellie and be like, I have to go work. We shall speak later. Please feel free to come to me whenever you need anything. Also, hold my wine.
She'll just disappear into the dark of the ship.
And she's gone. Oh, never mind. Right, so I look around. I find like my wine skin. I'm like, I feel. Do it. I come on up. I put my foot on like the top of the brow, like the ledge, I guess. Looking down to me, and I'm like, "Men, today you came to us as men, and we shall leave as warriors. And when we return, we shall return as champions." Let it not be said that each and every single one of you will not be rewarded splendidly for our trying task to race across in the Talos cosmos through the stars and return the fleece to the people of this planet.
The crowd explodes in an uproar of cheering. Now, what I'd like you to do, Lord, is I'd like you to make me a create advantage roll at this point. Just see how inspiring you've been to your crew. I would say it's probably flair, since you've given it the big one with all the "we're going to return as heroes." It's only a difficulty.
Let's see if I can't fail this one. I nail it.
Okay, so you've got 2 free invokes on this advantage you've created. What would you like to call this advantage, representing like the morale boost you've given?
The Cosmonauts ride. Nice and simple.
Lovely.
We need some space shanties.
Is it okay if I ask a fake question?
Of course, it is absolutely fine, Dennis.
So what does that mean? That he create 2 free?
Okay, so what he's done is he's created an advantage which has allowed him to create an aspect called the Kosmonauts Ride. Now, that works as a normal aspect, so you could spend a fate point to invoke it, or it could be compelled. However, because he's created the advantage, what he's done is he's placed 2 free invokes on it, and that means basically you can use the aspect twice without having to spend
because
fate
he will
points.
also.
That's it. Because he beat the roll difficulty by 3, it gives him the ability to get these 2 free invokes, and those remain applicable as long as the morale of the crew is high. But anyone who's part of the crew can use those 2 free invokes, and once those 2 free invokes have been used, the aspect is still there as long as morale's still up. So you could roll to create an advantage and get more free invokes later, or you could use a fate point once the free invokes have been.
Thanks.
No problem at all. Okay, so you've given your heroic speech, Aeson. When do you plan to cast off, or are you gonna stay around and enjoy the sort of celebration? Rocking on
The wineskin is open. We sail immediately. Say goodbye to your loved ones, for we shall see them again soon.
Okay, there's a loud cheer from the crew, and they all run to their stations, start preparing the ship, etc. You can see the golden solar sails folded up at the rear of the ship, which you know from your experience, once you enter the darkness between the worlds, they will unfurl and catch the light of the sun, allowing you to move at vast speeds between the different worlds. But you know that in order to move further, you will need to enter the realm of Hades, and that is where your ferryman, your navigator, comes in.
All right. So while they're sailing forward, I shall walk on down to the men and actually speak to them. I'd like to get to know my crew better. That Theron guy looks quite interesting, and also that man who put a crab on my ship. I'd like to speak to them, and also on the end of it all, go see my navigator. I'd like just like get to know them a bit better. So,
okay, so the ship begins moving as a standard ship would at first. It's moving across the water. There's actually crewmen at the oars, sort of poling it through the water. Then, as the God's blessed engines of this ship begin to pick up, slowly the ship begins to rise at an angle out of the water and sail upwards into the sky. As you're heading further away, the world retreating below you, the standard sails are being reeled in by the men, since obviously they're no good in the darkness between the worlds. But you know that that's what the solar sails are for. But as this is going on, your crew are all taking care of that. They're all moving at quite a quick pace. They're all sort of singing and laughing amongst themselves, buoyed up by the excellent speech that you're given by Theron's tachyon bow antics and by the presence of Jason. They're all quite happily going about their tasks, and that gives you the time to mingle with the more heroic members of your crew. So,
all right, let's start with this Theron fella, because, like, quite frankly, he's the name that everyone cares about. So I'm gonna saunter on down to him and be like, "The one they call Theron, I wish to personally welcome you upon my ship. I am the captain, Aeson of the Telos Cosmos." And I was
Captain, a pleasure. And I take it with two hands and I shake it, and I bring you into a hug as well.
I'm like, yeah. And I start like pulling forward, and I'm like, "It's good to see that we have Athena's blessing on this journey. We do have Athena's blessing on this journey."
Yes, truly. And I hope we have Hades as well as we seek to enter his domain.
Hades' blessing shall always be given to us. We travel with one of his greatest navigators. What is more important is you are a hero, and a hero of quite good repute. The ship is yours for whatever role you wish to take upon my vessel. If you had no training, I'm sure we could find someone to help you out.
The stories, I am sure, are rather inflated.
Come now, nonsense.
The woman who's still clinging to Theron's arm, she looks at him and says, "Oh, surely no stories could ever live up to your heroic magnificence, Theron."
I look down at her and I'm like, "This is going to be a problem later. I can tell."
And Lasthena's sort of like holding onto his arm, sort of peering up at him with these piercing blue eyes, just adoration just beaming from her face, like the rays.
Yes, as I was saying, I am but a humble patriot, seeking to do what I can to the betterment of us all.
That would be good. If you need anything, I am your captain. Feel free to come to me and say hello. Now, please, I'll excuse you with your missus.
Captain, one more thing.
You notice she turns and smiles at you when you refer to her in that way, Captain.
Captain, is that wine I smell?
Why, yes. Oh, would you wish to share in wine? I am more than happy to give up away.
I would like to. It is auspicious to do so.
To be fair, Theron, you've not really mentioned it, because obviously you're a hero and you don't really mention such things. But as you've come on board, pretty much the whole ship smells like wine.
I am going to reach to my other side and pull out the other wineskin, and I shall offer it to him and wait for him to take it from me.
Yep, I do so.
You may have that one for free, please. To great journeys.
To great journeys, and
now down mine in one.
And yeah.
Okay, so he passes you this amphora, this large sort of jar of wine, like with two handles on either side. Passes it over to you, downs one in one himself.
Yeah, I take a long sip, and and I pour some on
That's
the
beautiful.
well, not the ground, on the deck. Yeah, deck. Deck is the word. Yeah, I pour some on the deck and just like for absent friends.
For those who could not join us today, I realized that mine is empty. And I'm like, oh, I need more wine. Do excuse me. And I like throw the empty one to someone else. Go grab some more and go find Titus.
Luckily, as you say, mine appears to be empty, and you just like throw it down. One of the crew, who's obviously one of your more long-standing members, just like slaps another one of these.
Thank you. I need a second one. Thanks. All right. So now, where is that man of the crab?
Okay,
so whereabouts?
Titus would have spoke to whomever Lloyd designates as his ship's first mate, person who deals with these logistical issues. I'd have asked to been housed close to the ship's heart, the engine. The beating heart of the ship helps me sleep.
Okay, so Aeson, your first mate.
Male for my first mate, because it has to be someone who basically pulls me from under the bed and makes me go do some work.
Okay, so I'm going to call your first mate Orion. What is
Orion
like? If you had to describe him,
Orion is a skinny, focused, like Baron focused first mate. He's always about the job. He's about focusing on the job and keeping nothing going on. And he's basically there to keep me in check.
Okay, not a problem. So you approach. Is he young? Old?
Young, about maybe like 5 years younger than me.
Okay. So you've approached this skinny-looking young man who's wearing quite a serious expression. He's been like shouting orders to the crew, making sure everything's ship-shape as you're taking off from this world of Athens. You approach him. What do you say to him, Titus?
So I wasn't quite catch that, John. So it broke up there.
Yeah, you've approached this skinny-looking first mate. He's quite serious. He's like ordering the men around, making sure they're doing their jobs. As he stops talking as you approach. And
where may I place my equipment and bedding, please, sir?
Crew quarters are below, sir.
Do I just pick one that is free?
He gestures to like the hatch. He says, "Well, space is a little bit limited on the Cosmos, sir. We only carry what we need to, but there's plentiful bunks below. I'm afraid there's no private quarters, with the exception of the captain's quarters, obviously. But claim any bunk that's not got anyone's effects on it."
Thank you. I will do that. Oh, by the way, while I was looking around the deck, I detected an odor, some kind of leakage, maybe. It has a certain flowery taste. You may have something amiss. If you want me to take a look at your engines, just give me a shout now.
You notice like a very slight smile like twitch the corner of his mouth, and he holds up a hand and says, not necessary, sir, not necessary. The captain, God's bless him, has a certain fondness for wine of all varieties. And, from our previous successful mission, we celebrated rather heavily. I'm sure that's the odour that you're detecting.
A man must take solace in what he can. Very well. I should go find some winter bunk. Thank you for your help.
He nods at you and I hear him go, "You there, stow that sail!" And he walks off to start ordering.
And I'll wander down. I don't know how big the ship is. I'm going to guess a galleon size was fairly quite a lot of options. I'll try and find one that's closest to the sound of the engines, something that it brings a certain kind of calmness to Titus. He's sort of slightly nervous about being on the ship. He's in nervous excitement to walk in the God's path.
Yeah, indeed. Below deck, it's quite sort of primitive. It's various sort of hammocks strung up here and there amongst the provisions, etc., that have been bought on board. There seems to be a large amount, well, larger than anything else. There's a few crates, but most of the provisions seem to be these large, like, two-handled jugs with, like, huge corks on the top of them. There's, like, loads of them.
Yeah. Must be the rations or provisions.
But you do indeed select a bunk near the rear of the ship, and as you're sort of heading towards the rear ship, you can hear the reassuring of the ship's engines working, and it brings a certain sense of calm to yourself.
So I'll go in and get my sort of put my bags and that down. It's wearing kind of like a metallic toga, but it's got like some crisscross belts across the center chest, where he's got like little bits of, little trinkets and kind of things that you would expect from an engineer, like spanners, that kind of thing. Kind of little screwdriver. He sort of starts taking them out and putting them on the desk in like very precise distances from each other, and get like a little kind of timepiece and.
Okay, so while you're setting out your effects in the orderly fashion,
and cleaning them with a cloth and like.
Yeah, as you're doing that, Aeson, that is when you sort of head below decks and you find Tidus, this strange sort of blessed scion of Hephaestus, who's like laying out all his stuff in a neat, orderly fashion.
I left the door open as well, so I'll have my back to you as I'm just sort of cleaning away and moving stuff.
Ah! Of course, this one I'm a little bit inebriated. Aha! I sort of like saunter on over, and I've got this wineskin in my hand, these two big mugs in my hand. And they're like, "There you are, Crab Man."
I sort of look over my shoulder, and who are you, sir?
A man wanting to share a drink. You may have heard of me.
Oh.
And I sort of like come on in.
Does this captain permit you to drink freely during shift?
At this point, Matthew, I'm going to ask you to make me an overcome roll. It's an intellect roll.
Intellect roll.
The difficulty is 2. Just see if you have heard of Captain Aeson.
Okay. I guess so.
Okay, so you've he's not like the most famous captain in the Republic. However, he's more sort of a little bit infamous. He's well known as being like one of the most like inebriated like captains in the Republic. He still gets stuff done, but he's well known for his love of like celebrant and hedonism. So you have heard.
So it takes me a moment as I start focusing on him. My bionic eye kind of flickers a little bit, like, oh, you're that Aeson.
Yes, the one and only.
I'll let out a hand, and you can hear like very, very low, the sounds of servos and kind of little clicks as I held my hand.
Oh, good. Now, when he's hand over, I'll hand him the mug of wine, the second one. I need a free hand to sit down. Where can I sit down here? It's such a...
Sort of like, just puts it down on the desk, precisely like 90 degrees from one of his little brass bells.
I hear you are one of my cosmonauts now, right? You brought in that giant crab that now sits in front of my ship.
Indeed, an ill omen cleansed of its filth. Is it great?
Ah,
Boom.
Yes, sure. Wise. Excellent. Proud of you. Good work. I just wanted to come down and say, excellent work, joining. I am a little drunk.
Perhaps you should rest, Captain. The voyage will be dangerous. And
no, you're right. That's a bad idea. What I should do is have more wine. Where did I just put that?
I sort of like offer him the wineskin, like just without saying anything.
Oh, no, that's yours. That's yours. I came to share a drink. One thing I do is I always share a drink with my crew. However, you were the last one I could find, so I'm a little bit... Oh. So, share a drink with me?
If it is the way of the gods, of course.
Of course. Where are the gods? Whatever.
Okay, and the two of you are sharing a drink. Whilst you're doing that, up on deck, where your navigator is sort of settling in, ready for the arduous task of propelling the cosmos through Hades' dark domain, you are approached, Leon, by Jason himself. He's holding this sort of star chart effectively in his hand, drawn on ancient parchment. He walks over to you and says, good, navigator. And he unrolls his star chart in front of you. I believe, first of all, if the gods' wisdom is to be heeded, and it must be in all things, that first of all we must make our way to the world of Harpy. There is an older man who will be able to tell us the destination and the location of the fleece. And he hands this star chart to you. May you carry us safely through Hades' domain.
She'll take it and nod, and kind of feels with her fingers across the star map.
You feel that this star map must have been prepared specifically for ferrymen, because actually the points that are marked on it, they've actually got small holes pricked through the parchment so you can feel them with your fingers.
Good. I'll prepare to jump
Are there any preparations you wish us to undertake to make your task easier? And he sort of very gently lays a hand on your shoulder and says, I know from my travels that such things are not without their costs, and it is a great service you do us, carrying us safely through the darkness.
She kind of goes like this with her shoulder. No, I'm ready.
Very well then. I will instruct the crew to cast their gaze downwards as is traditional, for I know that only those who are blessed by Hades can look upon the darkness without peril for their very souls.
Maybe it would be best for your kin to come with me to the Temple of the Void. If that's cool with you, John, I like, if you call that the Navigator's Room.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine by me. Do you wish me to gather the entire crew?
No, you kin. And she looks at the ghosts around him.
He looks a little confused and says, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the navigators, the ferryman's language. I don't understand what you're asking me.
Oh, the ones who travel with you.
Yes, the crew, as I said.
See, in the back of her mind, she remember something like her captain once said. Yes. No, that's okay. And she addresses the children. Perhaps you should go with me. And she extends a hand to one of them, a little girl.
One of the spectral children takes your hand, and the touch is feather light. It's almost as though just like a sort of tingle of electricity as this ghostly hand reaches out and touches yours. And this line of children all holding hands sort of like detach from Jason, and one at the furthest end takes your hand.
She gives a nod to Jason and says to the children, well, come on, children. We'll go into below the deck into the temple, and she departs, going on the deck.
Okay, they all follow you below deck to the Temple of the Void. Whilst you're doing that, those of you below deck, you hear Jason's, and those of you who are on deck, you hear Jason's booming voice saying, we'll shortly be entering the Void. As is traditional, all of you should don your blindfolds, for only those blessed by Hades can look upon the Void without peril for their very soul. You know, so a few of the crew go like a bit pale. They all take out these sort of cloth sort of wrappings and start tying them around their eyes.
Ah, the journey truly begins.
Ah, yes. Where did I put my blind?
Thank you for your hospitality, Captain.
What? We're leaving? Let me find my. Oh, there it is. All right. Just could you just.
Of course. I do it. I tie it slightly a bit too tight because I've got. A look.
All right. I definitely can't see, but doesn't mean I can't drink. Shall we continue?
So as this announcement is being made, Theron, you're up on deck. How do you respond to Jason's pronunciation?
Well, is anyone handing out blindfolds, or is there like a bucket?
You can indeed see effectively like a half barrel that has these like strips of torn off cloth.
Emergency blindfolds are found here, and here.
Yeah, so I get one of those, but I don't really do anything with it. I just sort of hold it.
You notice that your female companion, Lasthena, she sort of trembles a little and like clings more tightly to your arm as this grim pronunciation is given by Jason. You would guess that she's probably not travelled through the void before. Fairly few people have, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I presume that she's blindfolded.
Well, she's not at the minute.
Okay.
She's just been like clinging to your
yeah.
arm.
So, because that's something I realize now. It's like, oh, you're actually so like paralyzed and spellbound that you. Okay, and I put my blindfold on her and sort of like pat her, and she's like, okay, there.
She lets out a small contented sigh as you gently tie this blindfold around her head. Okay, we then cut to the Temple of the Void, this chamber on board the vessel specifically reserved for the navigator. Inside it is this basalt sort of black stone chair, and seated at the head of it is a Greek style helmet with wires and cables running from it that feed back into the throne that, you know, Leon, you have to wear to like boost your abilities to enable you to pull the whole ship and crew through the void. What else is in this chamber?
Well, it's fairly barren. Beside that, there might be some offerings in like a little shrine here and there, where there's some remains of some offerings made. But otherwise, it's really barely. It's mostly barren.
Okay, so it's pretty empty. There's a small statue of Hades there, and there are the remnants of like incense sticks and small offerings and libations that have been placed around the statue. So describe the process that you go through. What do you do to like psych yourself up in there?
Well, at the moment, there's her and the 10 ghosts, right?
Indeed, yeah. They're all just sort of stood around you, one of them still like holding your
Okay,
hand.
before she does that, she would like to comfort the ghosts so they won't freak out. So she would like to sing a lullaby for them to calm them down before we depart.
Okay.
So the depart is slightly delayed today.
Okay, that's fine. That sounds like an overcome roll to me. You're effectively trying to calm them down. I would say that you could potentially use guile for that, or maybe even flair. I'm open to all the suggestions for approaches if you can justify them.
Flair is kind of like charisma, right?
That's correct, yeah. Flair is basically anything you're trying to do with style and panache, basically.
Oh, okay.
It's only a moderately difficult roll because they're comforted by the offerings to Hades and by your presence. So you'd only need to get 2 or
Yeah,
more
so
on the roll.
okay. I think intellect then is overcome, right? She will try to adopt a more motherly role. So she will sit down on the marble floor in a resting in a meditation position, and she will hold the hands of all the children, and she will start to sing the lullaby. So I just roll intellect.
Yeah,
Is that right?
that's fine. Yep.
I need the code.
It's /R
Yes,
space 4DF.
I only got a 1.
Okay, now do you wish to stick with that roll, or do you maybe have like an aspect you could invoke and use a fate point to boost that up a little bit? Because currently you need 1 more to.
No, I would like to. Can you use a trouble, or is that special?
Yeah, if you think your trouble is invocable, it could benefit you. Yeah, you can use it as a normal aspect.
Because everyone she sees is dead, so she has a connection to the dead. She sees them more as her kin than the living.
That is absolutely fine. So if you want to drop 1 of your fate points back in the pool, and you can add +2 to your roll.
Ding. There we go.
Okay, so as you sort of mother these ghostly 10 children, you sing this soothing lullaby, drawing on your connection to Hades, the lands of the dead, and your experience with spirits. They do seem to calm down, and they all sort of gather around you. A couple of them like laying their ghostly heads on your lap, and again you feel this slight tingle of almost like static through your legs as they lay their ghostly heads on your lap, and they all appear to be very calm as you sort of gently stroke one of their hair.
Okay. After a little while, she will get up and gently put the ghost head down in the lap of one of the older looking ghosts, and she will calmly walk towards the throne and sit down and take off her blindfold, revealing her what is the word? Soon shut eyes? Is that what the soon with tread? I'm probably mispronouncing it.
I don't know what word you're
Yeah,
trying to say.
when you take the eyelids and you take some thread and you
sewn
together. There we go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sewn together
No problems.
eyelids, and she will sit down and take on the helmet, and she this is more Aeolian style, but she'll again bring up her legs and put herself in the meditation position with the legs crossed underneath her, and she will calm down and go into a meditation state where she opens herself up to the void.
Okay, so again, I'm going to ask you to make me an overcome roll to like, take the ship into the void. Now, this is quite a difficult thing. So obviously, you're trying to pull a ship into somewhere it's not meant to be. So you'll need a 4
Okay.
or
And that was
higher
focus, you
to
said,
succeed on
right?
this. This will be focus, yes.
Yeah, again, 3. Okay, I can use my high concept to get a bonus to that, right?
Yeah, you can so drop one of your fate points into the pool, and you can add a +2 to that if you wish.
Well, I guess I have to, otherwise we won't go anywhere.
Well, it's not a case of you won't go somewhere. You'll definitely go somewhere, but there may be complications.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna take, because he's slightly distracted by the ghostly children. So let it stand at that. That's cool.
Okay, not a problem. Now, I'm just going to check, out of the player characters, is there anyone who is not wearing a blindfold?
It's a me.
Okay, so Theron, you are sort of stood. You've got Lasfina, who is blindfolded, still sort of hanging onto your arm. In front of you, that space appears to almost tear, is the only way you can describe it. And as you're sort of heading out into the blackness between the worlds, a tear opens in space in front of you, and an even darker blackness waits beyond, a blackness devoid of stars, an almost hungry blackness that seems to be sort of like trying to draw your ship in. And the ship, the Cosmos, passes through this tear, which seals behind it with this odd sort of combination of cloth tearing and the sounds of souls screaming in torment as you pass into the realm of Hades. Looking around you, what you first took to be pure blackness, you can now, it slowly starts to swim into focus, and you can see these swirling figures seemingly made out of mist, their faces torn in expressions of anguish, horror, sadness. Several of them seem to be sort of like clawing at the side of the ship, trying to sort of get purchase on it, but for some reason they don't seem to be able to. It's as though some sort of invisible force repels them from getting hold of the ship. I'm going to ask you now, can you please make me an overcome roll? And it's going to be based on your sort of your strength of will, so I'm open to an approach.
Let's see. Strength of will, so focus maybe?
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. It's a 2.
Okay, so as you're sort of studying, you're a little bit sort of set back by this, but you're a hero after all. You've like steeled yourself. You've seen things in your time. You've steeled yourself against it. You notice some of the crew have gone a little bit pale as they're obviously hearing these sounds, but they can't see anything. Most of them are sort of like gripping the benches in front of them and just sort of like with their heads down. You can hear some of them are mumbling prayers for their safety as they pass through the domain of Hades. The ship, odd enough, it feels to you as though the ship is not moving at all, but you know that can't be the case because ships obviously travel through this realm, but you're not entirely sure how the physics of the realm of Hades work. As you're sort of steeling yourself against these swirling shapes, you suddenly see what appears to be a translucent hand come over the side of the boat, and you see this figure wearing this like ragged shroud with a sort of skeletal like cadaverous face begin like pulling itself onto the deck of the ship, quickly followed by others. It's as though somehow some of these spirits have found a way to get on board the ship, and they start almost like a tide, and they start sort of pouring onto the ship. You can see like most people don't appear to be aware of their presence. No one blindfolded seems to be aware of them. However, obviously you can see them. And down below deck, early on, you can sense that some of these spirits of the dead have made it onto the ship. Perhaps while you were distracted, the ship wasn't suitably reinforced. When you're fully focused, you know that your will keeps these unquiet spirits away from the ship while you travel through the realm of Hades. But perhaps with the distraction of the ghosts or with everything that's going on, so they found some chink in your armor, and you can sense them as they come on the ship. It feels like a sort of cold sensation to you, being linked with the ship as you are. What do you do, Theron?
I will. Are they carrying like translucent, ghostly weapons or anything, or is it just like ragged beggars?
They look rather like ragged beggars. They don't have any obvious weapons. However, as they're sort of like crawling onto the deck with this strange... If you've ever seen the film The Ring, how the sort of like the woman crawls out of the TV, they move in a manner reminiscent of that. But the most unnerving thing about them is as they sort of, one of them like looks up in your vague direction, you can see they have these two shining coins in place of their eyes.
I would like to. Well, I'm going to give it a shot, as they say. I bring about my tachyon bow, aim at the closest one. I take my time because it doesn't appear that they're about to just jump on everyone. So I take my time and I try to aim for the eyes, with my theory being if the coins are flipped from their eyes, then they will be messed up in some way.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to make an attack roll now. Then obviously I'll make a defense roll for the ghosts. And the way this works, for anyone who doesn't know, in terms of damage, if the attack roll exceeds the defense roll, the difference is the amount of damage, the amount of stress that the enemy will take. I presume you'll be using force.
I was thinking focus. I wasn't quite sure when I was making my character because I sort of imagine bows requiring more like a steady hand, focusing on the job rather than doing the Legolas thing, which is bullshit.
Well, I think the way you've described your character's actions, you know, you're aiming, you're taking your time, you're picking your shot. I think focus is certainly applicable, so I'm happy with that.
Obviously, it's not going to be focused every time. It's a thing I aim to do with the character when I made it.
That's absolutely fine.
Right. And as I carry the tachyon bow, I get a little bonus on top of this. So let's see how that goes.
Nice.
Well, I'm going to re-roll that. Because
do you want to wait to see what their defense roll is first? You may not need to.
Oh.
Okay, so I'll make their defense roll, and then we'll see if you need to use your fate point. You will need to use your fate point.
Shit. Okay, so
this is the cost of hubris.
Yes, I will put one of mine back to the pool. And
okay.
Yeah, I am the hero of the Republic. Even though the stories might be vastly inflated, I am a fair shot at this. So let's see. Well, right. Are you using me?
Okay, so the way this works is you've tied, so your attack doesn't harm the target. But you gain a boost, which is a temporary aspect with like a free invoke. So what sort of aspect do you want? What do you want to call it?
We're going to call it... distortion, I guess, because I imagine, because I aim for the eyes, and I guess what happens is I hit the eyes, but the coins don't fly anywhere. They just start spinning in their eye sockets.
Indeed. Indeed, you hit the coins and their outlines appear to waver slightly, like say a slight distortion of their bodies, but they still carry on moving forward. However, they don't appear to be heading specifically towards you. You watch as these, there must be about half a dozen of them, as these spirits swarm towards the blindfolded crew members still on deck, who don't appear to be aware of their presence. Then it's almost as if they pass into the bodies of these crew members, and the crew are like, okay, at this point, I'm going to ask Johanna, since you obviously started the combat, who would you like to go next?
I think our navigator, because there's a reason for them to be. Wait a minute, there's a ghost on board.
Okay, so you've sensed these spirits on board, Leon, and you've also sensed that they've started entering the bodies of the crew. Effectively, you know that spirits need bodies in order to be able to affect the physical world, otherwise they're pretty much powerless. So you can sense all this from where you are due to your connection with the realm of the dead. What do you wish to do?
Well, she is slightly annoyed that she was not focused enough to prevent this. So she will try. she'll focus on the part of the ship where they come. The ghost has appeared, and she will summon the Never Babies to attack a ghost.
Okay, not a problem. So, to mainly our hero Theron, describe how this looks. I mean, we'll do it as an attack roll, but describe how this is going to look to Theron.
Okay. That's gonna small features. What is the babies will appear.
Fetuses.
Which will take a look around, and all the babies have their eyes sewn shut too. And they will look around at the ghost, and they will kind of hiss and attack the ghosts.
Okay, so do you want to make me your attack roll? I'm assuming it's focus you're using.
Okay. So since this is a +2 attack, do I add +2 to my focus?
Because of the stunt you've got? Okay. Yes, you would do.
So that is a +5. No, a 4.
Make
Sorry.
a roll.
That's a result of 4.
Okay, yeah, so roll +4. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I forgot 4. You can see it too, so I don't have to tell you that.
Okay, not a problem. So since they're still on their sort of defense roll of 4, again, you've not managed to exceed them, but you've gained a boost. Now, you could put a different boost on them, or you could add like another free invoke of the distortion boost. That's
okay, so since, again, a fate question, since I rolled a plus and a minus and a 0 and a minus, could I use a fate point to change that?
Yeah, if you've got an appropriate aspect, you could use a fate point to invoke it and gain either a +2 or a re-roll.
So I would like to use my Haitian ferryman aspect, since it is her domain to do this. They attack her ship. Well, technically.
Okay, that's
Haitian
fine.
ship.
So drop one of your fate points back into the pool, and then you can either re-roll or you can.
Okay, so what's the advantage of re-rolling? Is that if you roll very, very poorly?
Yeah, basically, if you've got like a really, really poor roll, like you'd roll like a -4 or something, a +2 is not going to help there, so you may as well re-roll it. But since you only drew with them, you may as well just have a +2.
I'll do that then.
Okay, not a problem. So you've inflicted 2 stress of damage on them. So as you watch Theron, these sort of floating, strange, sort of like infantile, almost like fetus-like creatures just seem to like materialize out of nowhere. Their eyes sewn shut, and they begin sort of with their tiny sort of teeth tearing into these ghosts, like pulling a couple of them out of the bodies of the crew and sort of shredding them to pieces with this ferocity that's quite unexpected. Who would you like to go next, Dennis?
I think it's time the captain awoke from his stupor. So Lloyd.
The problem is that I don't know if I know anything's going on. I'm just blindfolded downstairs.
Okay, well, Theron, would you have shouted anything or given any sign of alarm while this was going on?
Not at first, because my firm belief is that it's not dangerous to look at Hades. It's dangerous to breathe here. So I was holding my breath, and I shot my bow, and then they started entering the bodies of these people. At which point I would have started yelling something akin to "Alarm! The enemy is on board!"
Okay, so you hear some screams from the people who are being possessed on board. You also hear Theron shouting the alarm from the deck, Captain.
All right, I guess I have no choice. I'm gonna get up and try and stumble my way upstairs, and just be like, oh, "What the hell's going on?" So like, pull it up one eye.
Okay, as you storm onto the deck, you can see these strange, like, floating fetuses, like, tearing a couple of these spirits to shreds. You can also see what appear to be, like, 4 of your crewmen who are sort of, like, climbing out of their seats, effectively the benches they sit on, and they're, like, picking up their weapons, but they're moving in an odd, like, jerky, uncoordinated way, as though they're puppets being, like, jerked around by an unskilled manipulator.
All right, almost like you're basically giving instructions, like, you four over there, grab some weapons, knock those guys out. Rest of you, keep your spirits away. Use the bow, keep shooting. Someone get my navigator.
Okay, at this point, since you're effectively asking your crew to imperil their souls by, like, removing their blindfolds and, like, doing stuff, I'm going to ask you to make me an overcome roll to see if you can persuade your crew to do it. It's only a moderately difficult roll, so difficulty 2, because your crew does trust you.
Problem.
Obviously, you've still got the Kosmonauts ride with 2 free invokes on it.
Would you say this would be force?
Yeah, that's fine by me. You're basically just saying, right, do this now. Get on it.
All right, I will spend 1 of Cosmos ride to make that 3.
Okay, that's fine. Your crewmen start heading towards the 4 possessed members of the crew and start trying to take them down, basically. I'll make an attack roll for your crew. Okay, a bit of a melee breaks out, but despite the sort of uncoordinated nature of the possessed crew members, they still appear to be quite capable of moving very quickly and inflicting damage. And this sort of swirling melee breaks out just in front of where you are, Theron. Now, Lloyd, who would you like to go next? Obviously, the enemy still have their turn, and we've got your Hephaestus-powered crew members.
I will pass it to the enemies. This is the enemy's turn next.
Okay, that's fine. So the enemy, perhaps perceiving you as a greater threat, Theron, or perhaps sensing the divinity within you, they charge towards you, like I say, with these jerky, uncoordinated motions, swinging these spears in your direction as these possessed crew members attempt to mob you. So they're going to make their attack roll, which they've got a 0 for, so if you want to make your defense roll.
Right, and how much leeway do I have to describe which approach I take to this? Like, how does this work?
If you can describe it and it's reasonable, that's fine. If you describe something I think it's not reasonable, I'll just go maybe not.
We folded the solar sails, right? So they're not spread.
Yeah, the solar sails are not deployed since they're of no use in the realm of Hades. There is no sun here.
That somewhat lessens the chance of insane acrobatics, but okay. Yeah, I think we're going to go.
You've still got the masts from the normal sails. Obviously, the sails are all like folded in, but the masts and the rigging are still there.
Yeah, I think I'm going to. Let's go with haste or force, whatever. It's +1 either way for me. So I rush in towards them. So I meet them head on with the lid of a wine barrel. Just going in because they have actual weapons and I don't. So I leave the bow behind and I grab the lid and I go in, blocking and trying to just beat them around because I don't want to kill them. I just want them to stop. Okay.
Okay, make your defense roll.
Let's see. So I'll go with force. That is some bullshit.
Okay, so currently I'm beating you by 1.
I think. Well, were these the guys that I distorted with my tachyons? Yeah. So let's do the free invoke on that.
Okay, not a problem. So as they head towards you and they're attacking, you think that you're distorting the spirits earlier on must have set them back a little bit. Their movements appear, like I say, very uncoordinated, and you're easily able to like block and like parry these spear thrusts with this like wooden wine barrel lid that you're like wielding like an impromptu shield. Okay, and then since it was the bad guys go, I'm going to pass the next turn over to Tidus. Obviously, you've also heard the commotion. You've heard the captain like rush up on deck. You've heard the screams. You've heard the sounds of weapons clanging up on deck.
So Tidus, yeah. So just before this kicks off, Tidus will, after tied his own headband round, he would have gone stock still, as if awaiting the embrace of the void. You know, he's travelled before, but it's always an unsettling experience. And he's just sort of so still. And he's even when the ship slightly moves left or right, he kind of stays completely centre rigid. Thanks.
Nice.
And when the sounds of fighting breaks out and screams, and you know, I think I hear that pompous hero shout something. You know, oh hell, hail! Something needs to be done. He kind of takes a moment. It's like something is wrong here, and he So what I'm going to do is he's going to reach around and grab one of the kind of instruments from his desk. And what I'm going to say, John, I'm going to use one of my stunts to spend a fate point to create like a limited automaton. How I'm going to represent this is basically what he's going to do is he's going to tweak his eye slightly and basically tweak it to act like a radar. Because to see in the void is to profane against the gods. So sight is forbidden, sight is wrong. However, hearing is fine. Sound is fine.
So you're effectively turning yourself onto like the Daredevil style.
Yeah. And
okay, that's absolutely fine. Drop one of your
boom!
fate points back.
And I'm going to make my way to the sounds of screaming and see if I can assist in some way.
Okay, you follow up onto the deck. Everything has a strange sort of greenish, like vibrational hue since you're hearing by sound. You can see that sound radiating out from things. And as you head onto the deck, you can see the clanging of spears against the wooden barrel lid as Theron fends off these 4 possessed crew members. The 2 spirits that are being shredded by these infantile never babies from the void have been like completely shredded to nothing, and they're just dissolving bits of plasm now. But you see like Theron sort of flailing about and like expertly blocking these spear thrusts with his wooden barrel lid.
So what I'll draw from the side belt on that kind of metallic kind of tug, I draw out this long cylinder. I twist it slightly, and as I do, this kind of reddish brown, orange, deep orange, molten heat pours out of the 2 sides of it and slowly forms the head of a hammer. And I move towards, slowly but steadily, raising my hammer to strike one of these fiends.
Okay, that's fine. If you want to make an attack roll, you can certainly do
to assist this hero of Athena. Right. I'm going to do this through focus because I'm sort of kind of like my attention is on this thing, but I am moving slowly.
Okay.
If that makes a difference.
Obviously, they're still on their original defense roll of 4, so make your.
Okay, now I'm gonna. All right, why not? Let's go all in. So, 1 fate point for the thing, and I'm going to spend another fate point to invoke the hammer of Hestus. And say this.
Okay,
this is not just any hammer.
Over.
This is a godly hammer. And it rings out with a clang of beautiful music.
Okay, so you've inflicted 1 point of stress on them. So as you stride forward and you swing this mighty hammer, it hits one of these possessed crewmen. Now, you have taken this guy out of action. If you just want to incapacitate him, whether you want to kill him, describe how you take this guy out of action.
So yeah, I see him in. Is it Theron, right? That's how you pronounce his name. Theron, this sort of tussle, and he's got like a lid or something. Or it looks, maybe it's a shield. I can't really tell. Effectively, it's the grainy kind of pixelated version of this radar. And I see this thing like stab at the thing and get stuck in the wood just for a second. And I come up just underneath his guard with a hammer, and catch him flat in the chest. Not a killing blow, but an
Okay.
blow.
You catch him in the chest, it lifts him bodily off the deck a few inches, and he thumps to the ground. However, as his body sort of sails through the air and thumps to the ground, the spirit sort of breaks out of his body mid-flight, and the spirit is just like jettisoned off the boat as it continues.
Am I aware of this with my vision, or is this just something that I don't see, but Theron sees?
You are not
okay,
aware
cool.
of this as far as you're concerned. You just hit this dude, he's flown through the air and he's landed unconscious on the deck. Okay, who would you like to pass in the next round? Who would you like to go first?
I'm going to pass it to our resident Hades taxi man. Let's bring him back. Guide us out of this darkness. Ilham.
So the ghosts are still ghosts remaining.
There's three possessed crew members still attacking Theron.
Okay. She'll direct the Never Babies to attack the crew member, but try to reach out and pull the ghost out from him.
Okay, so make your attack roll. Since it's a new round, I'll make a new defense roll for them.
This dice roll is nice.
You know what I mean, man? Online dice rollers, beggars can't be choosers.
Just seems we are all rolling very low.
I rolled all right last time.
Okay, is that your roll? I can see now, Dennis.
It's a result of 5.
Okay, cool. I'm in my defense roll. Oh, if I can put the right command in, that'll help. Okay, so Dennis, you can effectively take out the rest of these remaining ghosts. So describe how.
Okay, so Theon sees these tiny baby ghosts with the pointed teeth screaming and kind of crawling up on the possessed crew members and reaching in like to their mouths and pulling out some ghosts, and they're tearing the ghosts apart as they pull them out of the crew members, and the crew members kind of like go and drops down from the strain of having a ghost pulled out of them, and then the babies kind of look at him and fade away.
And that's exactly what you see, Theron, as these ghosts are pulled out, sort of hauled off the ship, and then these Never Babies fade away. The crew members, as the ghosts are pulled out of them, they collapse unconscious to the deck. And for a few moments later, an eerie silence settles across the deck of the Trelos Cosmos. We're effectively out of combat now, guys. So.
Are we out of Hades' realm?
Nope.
I'll scream, blindfolds back on, and I'll run up to where Navigator's place is. I'll stumble my way up there.
Okay, you see, like, the few of the crew had like lifted their blindfolds to see what was going on, like quickly pulled them back down over their eyes. What about you, Theron and Titus? Do you blindfold up or?
Well, I'm not taking mine off. I just sort of, I reach across to where the where ally Theron is. Are you well, Theron? Do you need aid? I have some creams and tinctures that if you need.
No, the deceased did not touch me. They took some of the crew. They spared me.
Those are not stout-hearted. Unfortunately, a prey to such creatures. Hopefully, not the case.
And I will make if Yon Captain is on the deck, having everyone blindfold themselves. I'll do that as well.
Okay, so you grab one of these strips of cloth from the barrel and tie it around your face. Meanwhile, Captain Aeson, you run into the Temple of the Void, this chamber at the heart of the Trelos Cosmos. You can see your navigator, the ferryman Alion, sat on this black basalt, almost throne-like structure with this gleaming metallic helmet on her head, golden tresses cascading out from under it, wires feeding back into the throne. You see a few beads of sweat on her forehead. She's obviously been concentrating.
Alien, get us out of here now. Alien
turns her head. That is not without risk.
Compared to staying here and then those things go for us?
Okay. And she focused on severing the tie between the Talos Cosmos and the Styx, and try to find a point out from where they are now, landing in what she thinks is unknown space, because this is between the points. Do you need to make a roll again?
Okay. I don't need you to make a roll. However, at this point, since you see the dead, I'd like to propose a compel, since there are several spirits on board, 10 of them to be precise, that have now entered the domain of Hades, which is where they rightfully belong. So I would like to propose a compel to you. Now, you can obviously either accept that and take the fate point and the complication will occur, or you can pay a fate point and the complication will not occur.
Okay, so would that mean that they would be torn out and they'll be taken to Hades' domain, or?
The complication I'm proposing is that an emissary of Hades will arrive, a true ferryman, to collect these souls, as is the normal way of things with spirits.
Difficult.
I would be terrified if I was aware of this fact.
From her point of view, that this is where they belong. But let's say she...
Quite true. I mean, you know they must have died in very traumatic circumstances, and that perhaps allowed them to remain in the world of the living. But it is the fate of all spirits to eventually pass into the realm of Hades. Effectively, you've just brought them here on like a shortcut, really.
She kind of likes them, but...
Well, the final decision is yours. Like I say, if you wish, you can pay a fate point, and that complication will not occur.
No, I'll take the fate point.
Okay, so grab yourself an extra fate point out of your pool. So, you gain that fate point. So I'm going to say, up on the deck, you sense something fairly radiating with the emanations of Hades approaching the deck of your vessel. Now, Theron, up on the deck, as you're just sort of like tugging this blindfold down, the captain's gone below deck. Your Hephaestus-powered friend Tidus is stood next to you, talking about tinctures and such things. Just you're starting to pull your blindfold down. You see what appears to be a very small barge coalesce out of this mist that's surrounding the ship, so directly next to the Cosmos. And as you watch, this robed figure with this huge hood hanging down, concealing its face completely, but holding in one hand a scythe or a sickle, climbs off the ship onto the deck of your vessel. It's very tall. I mean, it's like about 7 foot tall, but skeletally thin.
Yep. And I throw away my blindfold and I approach. Greetings, whoever you might be.
As it walks across to you, as it passes, you can see sort of like small ice crystals forming on the deck of the ship as it walks slowly across the timbered deck. It draws a level with you, and a thin mist of like cold breath emanates from under the hood, and you feel an icy chill run down your spine. Maybe a few like ice crystals collect on your beard as the whole temperature around you goes very cold. it looks down at you. You can see this darkness beneath the hood.
Forgive my presumption if I'm wrong, but we lost no souls, so there is nothing here for you to collect.
A voice which seems to echo from very far away, as though it was shouting at you down a corridor, says, "There are souls on board this vessel that are the rightful property of my lord Hades."
And I look around just to check that no, we didn't really lose anyone. And I look at the tall being in confusion.
10 such souls
10?
dwell upon your vessel.
Surely not. I have accounted for every one of these crewmen and others. So there must be a mistake.
Do you doubt the will of Hades, mortal?
I am no mortal. I will have you know.
You carry the divine spark, that is true, but you are not beyond the realm of death.
We are in the realm of death, I believe. That is besides the point, though. I am merely of the opinion that there is a mistake here.
As you're saying that, it reaches up with its other arm. The sleeve falls back and you see this bony skeletal hand, and it reaches out as a skeletal finger towards your forehead and just lightly presses a finger against your forehead. Now, if you had to imagine how Theron is eventually going to die, how would you foresee that taking place? It could be in the far future as an old man, it could be immortal, however you see your character eventually meeting his fate.
I think Theron thinks he's going to die as an old man in his own bed, probably drinking wine still. But I think, well, he's on the path of the hero now, and I think he is eventually going to die defending someone else. It might even be like not from like our Titan enemies, but like fellow countrymen. He's gonna step into a situation and try to calm it down, and it's not gonna work. And someone's gonna shiv him in the back, and he's gonna go, è tu brute.
And indeed, that is what you see. You see a vision of yourself fighting in some future conflict. You're not sure what's going on. It's a chaotic battle raging around you. Then you feel this pain in your right kidney, and you turn around to see a figure behind you pulling a blade back stained with your own lifeblood. You fall to the ground, sort of struggling to breathe, knowing that your time has finally come. And as you fall to the ground, you sort of look up at the sky, surrounded by the dead bodies of your countrymen. You see this cowled figure holding a scythe standing next to you. Then you're back on the deck of the ship with it withdrawing its hand from your head. It is not yet your time.
I'm just shivering, even though I have my heavy royal blue philosopher's robes on me. I'm shivering there. I imagine there's like ice crystals in all my facial hair now, and my lips are kind of blue, and I sort of take a few faltering steps away from the ferryman, and I go, "What is this? Why are you showing me these things?"
You have seen an echo of what may be, but now is not your time. Now, Titus, to you, this is well confusing because you can't see this ferryman with your weird, like, sound vision. However, you can hear it, and obviously you can see what effect it's having on Theron. So as far as you're concerned, he's just, like, stood there and gone, and then this voice is just, like, from nowhere is just talking to him. How do you react to that, Titus?
If I don't get the sense he's threatening, I just sort of take a respectful bow, clutch the hammer to my chest. If there's no threat, no threat I can tell from it.
The ferryman turns away from you, Theron, and begins walking towards the hatch that leads to the lower decks. Again, as he walks, these ice crystals and these frozen patches are forming on the decks as he moves. Obviously, Aeson, you've also heard its voice. You've heard, like, Theron responding to it. Sort of like its loud booming voice. You hear its footfalls as it moves down to the decks below. You can hear it getting closer to the Temple of the Void. You can also hear it, Eleon, as it gets closer. You have no doubt what this thing is, Eleon. It's one of the true ferrymen, one of the emissaries of Hades. And obviously, having heard it go, there are 10 souls on board. You're pretty sure you know what those 10 souls are.
She will get up and take off the helmet. And
I'll be like,
Okay, as you take off the helmet, there's like a and a jolt. You can still hear these like soft footfalls, like heading towards you.
She'll put her hood on and come, children. It's time to go. And she'll reach out and grab the hands of 2 of them.
Alan, where are you going?
They look a little bit scared.
It's okay. This is where you belong.
The door creaks open to the chamber, and you can both see this sort of skeletally tall, like 7-foot figure, like crouches low and emerges into the chamber holding this sickle in one hand. It bows in a courtly fashion towards you.
She'll return the bow, just lower than his.
It then holds out a hand in the direction of these ghostly children and says, "You know what I've come to claim, Scion of Hades."
And she will nudge the children. If they all grabbed her hand, each like the ring hand thing again, she'll walk towards the ferryman, and she will. Yes, there are 10 lost souls on board.
The ferryman throws open his cloak, and you see darkness beyond it. But in the distance, sort of through this void that's inside the cloak, you can hear the sound of birds tweeting, and you could almost feel like a warmth emanating from it. As the children move towards this ferryman, they become visible to you as well, Aeson, and you see these like 10 sort of spectral children flicker into existence as they're passing into this cloak. And in an almost sort of friendly voice, the ferryman says, "Come with me, children. It is time to rest now. The Elysian fields wait you beyond." And these children sort of, as they sort of reach the robe, they get this happy expression on their face, and they skip into the darkness of this robe, which folds around them. The ferryman then turns back to you, bows once again.
She bows again.
And with a swish of its cloak, it turns and begins walking out of the chamber.
She looks at Aeson and sits back in the basal throne, flicks back her hood and puts the helmet back on.
You didn't have to get up for that. Can we leave?
Do you still wish to exit?
How long will it take if we don't?
Well, forever.
Just exit.
As you wish. She waits until the ferryman has departed, and then she will the Tellus Cosmos into the physical realm again.
Okay, up on the deck, Theron, you see this ferryman walk out onto the deck. He doesn't speak to you, he just walks straight past, climbs into this barge. Then it's as though the ferryman and the barge both dissolve into this mist surrounding the vessel. Then again, with this sound like a combination of tearing cloth and the screaming of lost souls. A tear opens up in front of the ship, and you see stars beyond it, and you pass through into the mortal realm, leaving the abode of Hades behind.
Are we out?
Yes, we're out. She removes the helmet again.
All right. Alien, what happened?
The seals failed to protect us, and she puts a blindfold on again.
How? We took precautions. We make sure we're always careful. What went wrong?
I think maybe because Jason brought the 10 children on board. That might have weakened it. It might have weakened my resolve since they were on board. She kind of, as she says that, she looks a little guilty and pulls her hood way down, concealing her features.
Alien, if you feel unsecure or not full of resolve, let me know so I don't have to stop drinking. Now, if you excuse me, I need to go explain to our benefactor why we've happened to have stopped a little bit early. Try and find out where we are. I'll be back soon.
Yes, Captain.
And then I'll head back out.
Okay, as you head up onto the deck, you can see obviously the crew having sensed that they've left Hades realm. They're taking their blindfolds off. You see they've started deploying the solar sails, these huge golden sheets stretching out behind the Trellis Cosmos. You can see Jason is sort of like leant over some of the unconscious crew, and he's sort of holding water to their mouths, trying to like bring them round.
I'll go out. Orion!
Yes,
see who's been hurt, see who's down. Give me a status report when we're ready. Also, let's try and find out where we are. I'm gonna go speak to Jason.
Right, yes, sir. We seem to have full crewmen unconscious, sir. One of them sustained injuries to his chest. The others appear
excellent. We'll just have to chalk it up to bad flying. All right, I'll go speak to Jason.
You heard the captain. Look lively. And he starts shouting.
Excellent. I reach up and be like, I sort of reach my hand out, like just randomly out my hand, be like, wine! And then someone pass me one, and I head down to Jason.
Okay, you head over to Jason, who, like I say, is like helping these crew up, and he's helping Orion get these unconscious crew members prepared.
Jason.
He looks over at you as you approach. Yes,
how are you doing?
Fine, a little shook up, but I've not passed through the dark realm for many years.
It's not always this exciting, but sometimes it likes to keep us on our toes. What matters is that you're all right. Here, have a drink, head back to your quarters, get some rest. I'll bring you a status report when we're ready.
Thank you, Captain. Thank you. And he swigs this flagon of wine.
Excellent.
And he heads below deck. So, Theron, obviously, you've seen this happening. You've seen the captain come and talk to Jason. What are you doing at the minute?
I think I'm jotting down notes using the back of the woman who came with me as my writing desk.
As you're writing, she's like...
And as I like come from my reverie of like formulating these notes on what we just experienced, and I realize that she's going, I said, no, just roll up the parchment, whatever space parchment we have, and I march up to our good captain. So, Captain, have we arrived then?
That remains to be seen. We had to take we had a setback, and we're seeing where we are now. The stars will guide us where we need to go. Also, I feel way too sober right now.
I hand you back the
thank
wine
you.
that you gave me.
I'll down it in one and pass it back to him. That's much better. Ah, all right. I'll go find out how we're doing. I'm just doing a status check on our cruise. You're here. Everyone seems you're right. Orion's with the men. Has anyone seen Titus?
And where's Titus?
I'm still on the
Okay,
deck.
Titus,
I haven't got
There
it.
you are.
yeah, you're stood a bit further on the boat. Yep.
Titus, how are you doing?
Sort of look around for a second as well. My sight doesn't work so well when it's normal space, so I'm like, Captain, is there a problem?
None whatsoever. You stay as exuberant as you normally are.
I can do that. I can do that.
You hear a voice from the crow's nest shout, "Planet starboard bow!"
You don't want to go up on it, huh?
I'll swing up to the starboard bow and take a look.
Okay, you look down and you can see what appears to be this beautiful looking blue and green planet, like a tiny jewel hanging in the blackness of space. You can see fluffy white clouds, what appears to be a single large continent sitting afloat on a crystalline blue ocean. It looks like
That
paradise.
sounds like a good place to go. Fantastic place to go to relax. I'll be like, that looks incredible. Anyone know where we are?
Are we not upon the void anymore?
No, we have crossed through the void. We're amongst the stars.
This is good.
I'll be like, get ready to set sail for that planet. I'll go check my navigator.
I should be but a moment, Captain. I have something in my eye.
Solar sails. Aye, sir.
I'm going to go back to my my quarters and refix my eye back to traditional.
Sensible.
That's absolutely fine. Now, obviously, earlier on, you know you've bought the ship out of Hades' realm, near to the planet, the world of Harpy, that you were heading for. It took you a bit longer. Obviously, there was inconvenience still on the way, but you've got them to the destination. Obviously, now you've left Hades' realm, you're no longer confined to the Void Temple.
Yeah, so she'll sit for a while until she can hear all the commotion about the sails being set and get up and leave the temple and go up on deck.
Okay. As you're heading up on
catch it.
deck, you meet Jason, who appears to be heading below deck. Then as he hears that you've reached your destination, he sort of turns around and he also starts heading back up onto the deck. You see both your navigator and Jason emerge onto the deck of the ship.
She'll go up to Jason and for the first time look directly at him and reach out and take his hand in hers.
He looks a little bit surprised, but
Your dead family was delivered into the realm of Elysium on the journey. They are at peace now.
he starts trying to thank you, but his voice sort of chokes off and catches a little in his throat, and he turns away. You can see him trying to sort of like surreptitiously like wipe a tear away from the corner of his eye. Thank you.
And she'll let go of his hands. I believe we are at Harvey, Captain.
All right, Jason, we've arrived.
Excellent. We must seek out the sage Phineas. There are all sorts of legends concerning. Apparently, he was banished to this place by the gods, but he is wise beyond most mortal men. If anyone can tell us where the fleece lies, it is he.
Then to Happy we sail. Prepare the solar sails.
I said, prepare the solar sails.
They're already up, Captain. Stop
Preparing them for fucking ages. The solar sails are
Bitch, I heard
unfurled.
that.
These large golden sails behind the ship, and the ship starts moving towards the atmosphere of the planet. And as you head down into the clear blue skies of the planet, you can see this, like I say, large continent. As you head across, you can see lush forests, verdant plains, crystal clear blue waters. It's almost as though you've landed in paradise itself. And that, gentlemen, is where we're going to end this evening's session.
Ooh.
As you head down to the world of Harpy. I hope that was okay for you
Space
guys.
Grease.
Good. I hope that was okay for you guys. Thank you very much for playing.
It was wonderful,
Well,
John.
hype on
Thank you.
Space Goose. Space Goose is cool.
Okay, does anyone have any comments, feedback, etc. on the session before we end the recording?
Don't stare into the void, for the void will stare back into you.
No.
Are we going to get all Nietzschean, even though it's like ancient Greece?
Well, I hope the void was suitably dark for you, Dennis, since you like shaped it more than anybody.
Yeah, I liked it. That's cool. Super
You
cool.
would.
I would.
Splendid. Okay, so we'll sort out advancement, etc. in a few moments. But for now, I'm just going to thank anyone who's watching either now or in the future. And I'm going to end the broadcast shortly.
Mm-hmm.